Hey guys, Ryan here again today. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about why you might get an MBA. I'm going to start by talking to you, about why I did it, some of the benefits to it, some of the drawbacks, and hopefully by the end of this video you can make a better decision, on whether or not it's something that's for you. So when I first decided that, I might want to get an MBA, I really didn't have a great deal of people around me that knew a lot about it. Um, what I mean to say is, maybe they knew of an MBA, but they didn't have an MBA, or they didn't really know anybody um, that had one, and how that had affected their lives. Um, so, you know, one of the one of the main reasons that it interested me was because I ultimately just wanted to make more money, right? Of course, there's other more surface level reasons. I wanted to better understand business, kind of wanted to distinguish myself a little bit better, on a resume, considering, if you're out there applying for jobs today, I'm sure you've heard people are getting a large stack of resumes, and if you don't have, certain things, you're just going straight in the trash can. So fear of that, but again, ultimately, it was boiled down to financial. Wanted to improve my financial situation, and so, even though I said I didn't really have a great deal of people that knew anything about an MBA, some there were basically two people in my life at the time that made me pull the trigger on going ahead and getting the MBA. And one of those guys was a he had just finished his MBA, or I think he may have been midway through it at the time, and I just really admired where this person was in life at the time, particularly with respect to our peer group and who we were hanging with. Now, that may have been because a lot of the guys we were hanging with at the time were, really big partiers and not so much about maybe getting their lives together at the time. So I'm not sure, if I gave this guy too much credit, but I really just thought he was an awesome guy, had his stuff together, and I wanted to be where he was. And I saw that, okay, he's got an MBA, and it really wasn't much more thinking to it than that. Um, and then, but ultimately, there was another individual that was probably more influential and really the main reason that I got my MBA, and that was one of my buddies' dads that I used to play ball with and grew up and went to school with. Um, and during my undergrad, um, I would see this guy all the time at the gym, or I would see him, I'd see him at the grocery store, or whatever. And every time I'd run into him, he'd say, "How you doing, man? You taking care of yourself?" "Yeah." "I see you doing your undergrad in business. That's a smart move. You always have a job if you got your degree in business. That's a good move." He said, "But let me tell you something. Um, if you can stand it, go ahead and get your master's degree. Go straight on through and get your master's degree. You will be so glad that you did it." And wow, that guy was spot on. Because I'm so glad that I went ahead and did that. It has made my life a lot better, and I think that's a result of pursuing my master's degree. At the same time, I'm sort of very much a results oriented person. As an example, if I was trying to learn how to throw a football, I would go talk to somebody as close as possible to Tom Brady. I'm not going to go over and talk to some guy that has studied throwing footballs his whole life. I want to talk to the guy that has thrown the football and had some serious results as a result of, sorry, that doesn't make sense. Had some serious results from throwing a football, and this guy was like, I can't confirm this. I never saw the guy's tax returns, but he appeared to have a significant amount of wealth, probably a multimillionaire. And so, that was that was enough for me between those two individuals. So enough about my story. Why might you get an MBA? And now that I've had an MBA for a few years and I've worked, I've ran a couple businesses. I worked in a corporate setting, pushing 5 years now. I can tell you that it is an extremely valuable degree to have. But really, it depends on whether or not you should get an MBA. Depends on what your aspirations are. I will tell you, if you want to be a business leader, like I want to be a business leader one day, I want to be a CFO or a CEO or something like that. Um, it, I think that it will definitely help you get there better than just having a bachelor's or having some other master's degree. It is a well-respected degree for a reason. It really teaches you things that you need to know. Organizations know this; they acknowledge that. There's a lot of people in leadership positions with MBA. So if that's your aspiration, of course, like I said earlier, it really boiled down to finances for me ultimately, and I think that's what it probably boils down to for most people. They want to improve that paycheck. It will do that. It uh, will give you a better paycheck, like period. Um, so yeah, some reasons, career advancement, and ultimately financial incentives. It's there. It's there. Um, it's a very versatile degree. Like you can, uh, like I said, I ran some businesses, and one of the businesses that I ran, actually the one I ran the longest, I didn't have an MBA at the time, and I think that I would have been, if I had the knowledge from an MBA, I would have been much better off running that business. So there's a lot of people out there that get MBAs, and that's what they go do. They go start a business, and there's a lot of very successful people that have MBAs that are running businesses. Not to say that you have to have one, because there's a lot of people out there that don't have anything that are running very successful businesses. I'm just saying it can only help you. Um, so there are some of the reasons. Now, getting into something that I wish I had looked more into when I started to pursue my MBA was comparing different MBA programs. I didn't know anything about this. I was probably almost done with my. No, that's not true. It was probably shortly after starting the program that I ultimately got my MBA from that I found out there are actually a bunch of different classes of, not a bunch, but there are quite a few different classes of MBAs. They're broken into like tiers. So it's basically like you got A schools, B schools. I think there's C schools, like C schools and everything else. Um, just as an example, so you can kind of get what I'm talking about. Some of like the A schools, of course, that's top tier. That's like Harvard, Stanford, University of Chicago, yada yada, so on and so forth. And then like maybe B school. I think like a local school for us is Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's really a good school. Of course, all the way around, everybody knows that. But I think with the NBA, they're like a top on the top list B school. And then like I personally went to Middle Tennessee. I'm not even sure where it's C school, but I love my program. I don't regret doing it there. But again, if I did it, if I redid it, I might. There's a potential that I might go and try put a little more effort in and try to get into a better program. Now, with that said, we'll move to the next point. When you get ready to decide which school you're going to do, you have to consider cost, right? And cost versus benefit, or cost versus what's the salary going to be coming out with in that from that school. All this stuff is well documented on the web. You can go find the information. It's not hidden from you, and you just have to be able to, like everything else, you have to be able to do a cost benefit analysis. And I will tell you, some of those top tier schools, if you're lucky enough, not lucky, if you're hardworking enough to go through all the rigorous requirements that they have to get in, which I'll talk to you briefly about that in just a second. then you're going to have to pay pretty heavily. Like for instance, don't quote me on this, but I want to say a Harvard MBA is probably well in excess of $100,000. Now their guys come out, guys and girls come out making, I think I've seen somewhere 150. That's pretty good, man. So is that ROI? You go and look at some other schools, maybe it costs you 30 grand and you come out making 90. It costs you 150 to go to Harvard, you come out making 150. That's a consideration there. So I didn't do enough analysis there. Maybe you want to, maybe you're like me, you really love the school that you went to and you don't really care about the rest of it. So anyways, just some considerations. Going back to what I was talking about earlier with the different requirements to get into some of those schools. For instance, with I will say this, and you need to know this, with any good MBA program, because of course, like anything else, all MBAs are not equal. Do not think that. It is not the case. You go get an MBA from some online school versus somebody that got a degree from even, a B school, or top tier C school or something like that. Like, there's going to be some different ways that gets looked at. So I won't go too much in detail with that. But the main thing is, in my opinion, if a school does not require GMAT, I would not go to that program. I personally wouldn't. I personally would not do an online program. I had a professor during my program that was very critical of online programs. Period. I think he said they were trying to get together some legal traction to sort of make you indicate that if on your resume they weren't really getting any traction behind it. But there's some not hostility, but there's some there's like a little bit of distaste maybe for online degrees. So take that however you want, but particularly if you are getting into an MBA program that does not require GMAT, maybe even more importantly, doesn't require a GMAT score that's above a certain level, then you may want to look at something a little bit more challenging, because employers are not the good employers are not unaware of the value of different degrees from different areas. These HR folks are really good. So a little bit more. I just want to go a little bit more about the GMAT, and then I'll move on to my next point. That test is one of the hardest tests that I think that I've ever taken. Actually, it definitely is the hardest test I think that I've ever taken. And I've taken some very difficult exams. Like you probably see some of my other videos. I'm also a certified management accountant. I think that thing, it has like a 35% pass rate on one of the exams, 50% pass rate on the other exam. So not an easy test by any stretch. The GMAT is harder than that. And so, if you're trying to get into one of these top tier schools like Harvard, for instance, or Stanford, you have to be scoring in the top 1%. I think the range on the GMAT is like 800 is the top score you can get. So that means you got to score like a 750 or 760 to even be considered to get into that school. On top of, that's another thing I probably ought to point out, some of those schools require that you have a couple years of working experience before you even apply. So even if you have a great GMAT score, you have a great undergrad GPA, whatever, you can afford it, whatever, you're still going to have a couple years of experience before you can even get in. So that's a consideration too. The last thing I want to talk to you about, and this is probably the most important part of this entire thing. Sorry it took so long to get to it. It's what is it like in the real world having an MBA? Like I said, I have worked in the corporate world for about pushing 5 years now. And most people that I consider successful, I'm gonna say most of them, a lot of, I mean, it's crazy. Like 80% of people that are in leadership or, that I consider successful are in a good role, well paying role. They're MBAs. Period. You see people that are in their mid to late 20s that are in leadership roles or management positions. Common denominator, MBA. So, yeah, I think that speaks enough. I think that speaks for itself. So, maybe it's something that you want to do. Depends on where you want to be as to whether or not you should get one. Now, in another video, I'm going to cover some alternatives to getting an MBA. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm also a certified management accountant, and some people decide that that's something that they want to do as an alternative to getting an MBA. Some people decide to go do the CPA, CFA, other certifications. I will definitely cover the CMA versus the MBA, since I am a CMA and an MBA, because I feel like I can tell you for sure the cost and benefits are both of those. I may end up covering the MBA versus the CPA, not sure. Possibly the MBA versus the CFA. But the point is, there are alternatives to getting it that, they may not take as much time. They have their benefits, also have their costs. So we'll talk about those in another video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that it helps you to maybe get a little bit better information on your decision-making process for deciding to get the MBA. You're welcome to leave any comments that you have below. Reach out to me if you want any additional information, and I'll do my best to help you along. So good luck with the pursuit of your MBA, and as always, you guys have a blessed day.